Good evening, Classics Dynasty League. Welcome back to another episode of the Down South Fantasy Football Podcast. With you, as always, your host, Haley. Coming off of bye week myself, had to get ready for PJ's wedding last week in Milwaukee. Congratulations to him and Tori. Had a great weekend there. Wedding went off without a hitch. Almost no incidents happened. Allegedly, somebody may have fallen on a table or something and may have a couple of bruises, but that's hearsay. Not going to say any names. Then yesterday was my birthday, so I'm also getting this podcast out late. Did a little dinner and movie last night. Some Bad Times at the El Royale. Not a bad flick. Very highly recommend it. Sneaking this in before my basketball game tonight at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. So going to get it out a little early before the Thursday night game, so still gets in before that deadline. Let's go back all the way to week 5, then we'll do week 6, then I'll do my predictions. Starting off with myself, lost a very close one, 109.8 to 114.34 to Silverback Nation. Really thought that I was going to get it there at the end, but turns out played the wrong quarterback. For some reason, I've fallen in love with Alex Smith over Carson Wentz. Don't know why. Alex Smith has not done much this year. Of course, the 1 week Kenyon Drake does something for Silverback Nation. He does it against me. Other than that, no one really showed out for either team. So that was a big win for Silverback Nation when I really thought that I had him. Sterling Shepard really not doing too much for me. Chris Thompson, nothing there. Also, who would have thought I should have started Wendell Smallwood? Not me, that's for sure. Next game we're going to go over is my guy Tucker versus Believe in Bell. Another close matchup. My guy Tucker sneaking this one out. 139.16 to 135.32. My guy Tucker getting some great performances from Phillip Rivers, Alvin Kamara, TJ Yeldon Alvin Kamara did not have a good game. This was the week where Mark Ingram first came back. It was TJ Yeldon, then Antonio Brown having a huge game, probably his first big game of the year. Also, Diggs goes over 20 points. On the other side, pretty consistently double-digit points with Cooper Kupp going over 20, and then only the Jets' defense holding Bo Leavin Bell back there. Could have gotten a couple more points there. Still would have lost had both played the right guys on their respective teams. Moving on down to Staunch Moderates, E-Walking Dead. E-Walking Dead having a heck of a season. Winning this one 133.52 to 105.4. A clear blowout in our fantasy league. Walking Dead got big performances from Tom Brady. Huge performance from OBJ with 33.38 points. And then, nice from Christian McCaffrey and Gronk. On the other side, Deshaun Watson, even though he's still not playing actual football too well, still putting up very nice fantasy numbers, getting 22 points there. Not much would have changed had Staunch Moderates started. The right guys went ahead and had Devonta Freeman in there, who barely put up 5 points, who, moving on into the rest of the year, has now been placed on IR. Should be interesting how that goes the rest of the season. Following that, we have Shooter Stab, a blowout by Built for the Future, 156.7 to 114.48. Built for the Future, three huge performances of over 30 points from James Conner, Todd Gurley, and Zach Ertz, and then a near 30 points from Devontae Adams at 29, really carrying his team there, especially with Jeffrey putting up under 6, Jay Ajayi under 3, and defense only 1 point. Those big games will carry you all year long. On the other side of the ball, you had David Johnson, who his real game numbers don't look good as well, but his fantasy numbers are doing pretty well. 16 plus points in every game but one this year. But then, just not too many performances outside of Robert Woods there. couple right plays for Shooter Stab. Still would have lost even if Built for the Future had the same lineup. Shooter Stab had his perfect lineup in. Going to be interesting for this team moving forward. Has a lot of questionable players going forward, not injury-wise, just, McCoy's on a bad team. Latavius Murray, when Cook comes back, what happens there? Larry Fitzgerald dealing with a rookie quarterback. Robbie Anderson, boomer bust. Alfred Morris, is he even anything anymore? So the rest of the year should be very interesting for Shooter Stab. Next, and finally for these Week 5 matchups, we got Johnny I Want to Score More getting his first win in Week 5, getting his full complement of players back from suspensions. Wins 144.28 to 113.64 versus J-Way Bella. Johnny I Want to Score More had wonderful performance from Aaron Rodgers, Saquon Barkley, Mark Ingram in his first game back, and Nuke Hopkins. Just a great performance all around. And then on the other side, you have Melvin Gordon doing his thing, Adam Thielen doing his thing, and then the big goose egg there from Brandon Cooks didn't help. Will Fuller also not having a big game. I believe Week 5, both these players were injured in the middle of the game, so that's never going to help you out when you got some starters in there that are only playing a quarter or a half. So for predictions that week, actually my first week this season going under 500, I went 2-3, bring my total record to 15-10. Not happy with that, but definitely don't hate it. We'll see. Hopefully this week I can get another 4-1, 5-0 under my belt to get that percentage looking a little better for you all. Moving on to Week 6, a come-from-behind victory from myself, the right-handed destruction over J-Way Bella. I will say, middle of the day Sunday, games had already started. Before I'm boarding the plane to come back to Charlotte, check my lineup, notice there's only 8 guys. My kicker was on a bye. I thought, shit, I just lost this game. I have no chance. Looked through the waiver wire, was able to pick up San Francisco's kicker in Robbie Gould and drop C.J. Anderson, who's pretty much useless. Wound up Robbie getting me a nice 16.3 points for a 148.42 to 139.42 victory. Had great performances from Kareem Hunt, who's come along very strong lately. Manuel Sanders, my dude, and David Njoku finding the end zone for the first time. I think that dude's just going to steamroll through the season. He has a lot of favorable matchups coming the rest of his way for tight ends. On the other end, I overcame Melvin Gordon putting up 34 points and Adam Thielen putting up 29. Carlos Hyde, Brandon Cooks, Will Fuller all going single digits. Bringing that scoring down, and it was just a really good match there, very evenly matched, and hopefully I can get some momentum going the rest of the season. Would have liked to be 3-3 at this point, 2-4, still not out of the playoffs yet. Moving down to the staunch moderates, taking down my guy Tucker, 129.48 to 105.08. Staunch moderates. Huge performance from Tyler Boyd, who's really come alive these past couple weeks. The clear number 2 there in Cincinnati. And as long as Andy Dalton doesn't fall apart, which he is known to do, then he should have a very productive season. You also have the kicker, Gostkowski, going for 22. You got Julio, who still can't find the end zone, but manages to get 24 points. Big there. And then the first truly bad fantasy week for Deshaun Watson, going under 8 points, was overcome though. On the other side of the ball, you had 2 20-plus point performances. You have Antonio Brown going back-to-back weeks over 20 points. And then you have the Houston Texans defense, 20 even. Wasn't really a close match. Had both teams played the right players, it would have been an even more of a massacre. Would have been almost a 50-point win for staunch moderates. But going into this next week 7, the league is pretty even right now. and it's looking like it's going to be a photo finish to the end to see who's going to get those spots in the playoffs. Next game we're going to go to is a close one against Silverback Nation and the E-Walking Dead. Silverback Nation took this one 114.48 to 106.8. He did that with his defense getting -1 points, but he was helped out from Andy Luck, 25.74 points, and Juju Smith-Schuster, 20.10 points. He had a lot of guys injured or on bye week last week, and little secret, he's got a couple guys this week on bye week as well. On the other side, E-Walking Dead had nice performance from Tom Brady, and then bold decision, didn't want to pick up a defense, and it cost him here. Really could have made a difference if he picked up the right one. And then a couple starts here and there, still wouldn't have done much. Going to be interesting the rest of the way with these 4 tight ends. Keenan Cole really not doing much. OBJ, him having up and down weeks with the offensive line there, and Manning not having time to throw. You got Lynch, who's very upset on the sidelines. And then, as mentioned in weeks prior, just the lack of depth at the running back position. Wide receiver definitely has enough wide receivers, definitely has enough tight ends. But in those cases, those could also be worrisome, not knowing who to start any given week. The next game we're looking at is a very high-scoring game, but also a blowout. Built for the future, huge win over Bo Leavenbell, 185.9 to 144.48. The battle of the groomsmen, if you will. Matt Ryan, 27 points. James Conner, 26 points. Todd Gurley, 35 points. Devontae Adams, 35 points. Zach Ernst, 20 points. Just a sheer knockout from Built for the Future. And then the crazy thing is, he could have had over 200 points playing the right people, but he didn't need to. On the other side, another stellar performance from Pat Mahomes. You got Sony Michel going for 22. Tyreek Hill wasting a near 40 burger, 39.2 and a loss. And then Cooper Kupp getting injured. Jordy Nelson having a tough week. And George Kittle just not producing. Going into the season, these were the two teams that were viewed as 1 and 2 or 1A and 1B in the league. There are a couple buys. Obviously, Bell hasn't played yet for Bo Leavenbell. He had, he's got a couple guys that just haven't been playing well. Duke Johnson hasn't done much. Tevin Coleman could get an uptick with Freeman going on the IR, even though Ito Smith has been playing well. Corey Davis, quarterback troubles there. It's going to be tough. Tight end situation, not very good. And then on the other end, just a whole complement of players. Matt Ryan having a real resurgence this year. Connor, we don't know what's going to happen the rest of the year with him. So you move on past that, and you really have one running back on the team. Brady, you don't know when he's going to get hurt. Tariq Cohen had a nice week, but he hasn't had a very nice season altogether. Alex Collins had a nice week, but once again, another fumble. And Kenneth Dixon coming back. He could see his time reduced. Lamar Miller, not much going on there. So, going to be interesting to see where these two teams land in the playoffs if they both make it. And then finally, you have Johnny I Want to Score More getting his second victory in a row over Shooter Stab, 137.3 to 111.1. And he did this also while his defense got -1 points. But that was canceled out by Aaron Rodgers, 28 points, and Saquon, the man, Barkley, 33.4 points. On the other side of the ball, you had Cam Newton go for 24.3, and you had Robert Woods with a near 20-point performance, 19.1. Would have been a closer game had the right players been played, but these two teams going forward, both at 2 and 4, along with myself. It's going to be interesting because Johnny I Want to Score More getting two guys off suspension in Edelman and Ingram really gives him some more depth moving forward. He also has Rodgers, who's looking a little healthier each week. On the other side, it's just tough to see who you're going to play at running back every week in that number 2 spot. You got Eckler, who had been doing well until that week, but only puts up 6. You got Philip Lindsay, who really needs a touchdown to do anything. Alfred Morris not doing much. Latavius Murray, who's going to have Cook coming back. It's just going to be tough figuring out who that number 2 guy is and then just rolling with them for a little while. So obviously I didn't have predictions on this week 6 because there was a bye last week, and that's it. So going into week 7. Week 7, we have a couple of beautiful matchups. Some that could determine, I know it's still early, but could be make or break weeks for certain teams, myself included, being at 2-4. 3-4 looks a lot better than 2-5. We're going to start rolling into it. I know I'm going a little quick for everybody. As I mentioned, I got a game tonight. Trying to go through this as quick as possible. Also, no guests. Typically when I don't have a guest on, I usually speed things up. Not as much banter to go back and forth. I'm sure you don't want to hear me just jabbering to the wall. So I'm doing what I can by myself with what I have. We got the first game of week 7. My guy Tucker versus Silverback Nation. Game starting soon. We'll be interested to see if there's going to be any lineup conflicts. Silverback Nation. But that being said, obviously, looking at it right now, their lineups haven't been set yet. So just going through the teams, Kenyon Drake, I can't do it. I just can't do it. Can't pull the trigger on him. Don't think he's going to have another big week. Joe hasn't been playing well. Keenan Allen, I think he's prime for a very, very good week. But then a lot of guys on bye. Dougie Baldwin, Juju Smith-Schuster, Jimmy Graham, Jamal Williams. So you got to figure who's going to go in there. You're going to get Ian Thomas in there for Carolina. Still has yet to really do anything. T.Y. Hilton looks like he probably won't play. Traquan Smith will probably get the start with the news just happening a few minutes ago. Ted Ginn to IR, so he gets a little uptick there. And then do you go Kerryon Johnson, or do you try and get another third receiver in there who... nope. There is no other receiver you go to, so going to have to go with the 3-headed monster at running back. Andy Luck, he puts up yards, he gets a couple touchdowns, but he's interception prone as well, and the way he gets hit, he can get injured at any time again. On the other side of the ball, you got Rivers, who's having a very, very underrated season. Nobody's really talking about him, but he has been killing it. His numbers are awesome. His interceptions are actually down. Even though he is still profusely screaming at his teammates, it seems like it's starting to work. You got Kamara, who he did have that off week when Ingram first came back, but he was carrying the workload the first 4 weeks. They probably just wanted to dial it back a little. Now he's going to go full blow. He's going to be fine the rest of the way. Yeldon, Fournette's not coming back. As long as he's not too banged up, he'll be good. Then you got Diggs and Galladay, who Diggs is a PPR guy, hasn't found the end zone much. Galladay started off hot, it's been a little up and down lately. Then Demaryius Thomas got a garbage touchdown last week, which for fantasy helps. But when you're looking and trying to project, you don't really know where his points are going to come from. He hasn't had a solid season. Also, the word in Denver is they may yank Case Keenum at some point, especially if they lose this week. Tonight, they're at 2-4. They go to 3-4. They're going to keep Keenum in there. But if he puts up another bad game, unfortunately, they may turn to undrafted second-year man Chad Kelly. So you don't want any part of that offense, and I am terrified of that myself, having Emmanuel Sanders. O.J. Howard, great tight end to have the rest of the way. He has a awesome slate of the next 4 or 5 weeks coming up. Plus, I think it showed last week when he came back at the end of last year. Winston favored Brate over Howard. Last week, Howard played more snaps, ran more routes, and had more receptions, yards, and they both had a touchdown. So that's promising. I think that's probably going to be his starting lineup with Brown on a bye. Unfortunately, Rashad Penny on a bye because, that guy is killing it this year. But the prediction for this week, I'm going with my guy Tucker here. I just think Silverback Nation has too many buys, and I don't trust his replacements too much. I also don't trust his number 2 in Kenyon Drake, who has had one good week so far this year. So my guy Tucker, put it on the board. Second game we're going over. We got Built for the Future against Staunch Moderates. Obviously, these lineups have not been set either, but we'll see what happens here. Staunch Moderates has Aaron Jones, Ty Montgomery, Jalen Richard, and Martavius Bryant, all on buys. None of them should affect him too much other than maybe Aaron Jones, but he's running Zeke out there, having a great season. James White having a phenomenal season. Trubisky or Watson. I know Watson's on the bench because he's playing Jacksonville, but Jacksonville the past 2 weeks has given up 30-plus points, so should be interesting what happens there, who he plays at quarterback. Goodwin had an awesome week last week. Bethard really found him, over 100 yards, touchdown. Only thing is, it was only on a few catches, so take 2 of those catches away, that turns into a 2-catch, 40-yard game. That's not really helping you, so he's on that boom or bust line right now. Julio's going to do Julio, and then you got, coin flip. Is it going to be Kyle Rudolph, or are you going to go with the man that you spent a bunch of money on and, hold up, was dropped by Staunch Moderates? ? Trey Burton is no longer on Staunch Moderates. Wow, that is news to me. Spent a lot of blind bid money on that and just lets him go. Interesting. Just leave it at interesting. On the other side, you got Built for the Future. Matty Ice going up against the Giants. I don't like that because they're throwing the ball, and he's throwing it everywhere. Giants defense has not looked good. The offense is leaving him on the field too much, and he's going to torch the Giants bottom line on Monday Night Football. Tariq Cohen, as I mentioned earlier, him and Alex Collins, you don't know what you're getting from them. Cohen is kind of a low floor guy. Alex Collins has a higher floor. He's going to get his touches. You just don't know if he's going to fall into the end zone or not. Gurley, you're good. Mike Evans, probably going to be fine. Jeffrey, he'll have a fine week. Ertz is killing it this year. Him and Kelsey are just through the roof. Gronkowski, kind of a distant third when it comes to tight ends. You could also put Ebron in that category as well. He does have a lot on bye. He has Tyler Lockett, not a big deal. Amari Cooper, not a big deal. Devontae Adams could hurt. James Conner could hurt. And Russell Wilson, who, to be honest, hasn't done too much. They've turned into a real ground and pound team lately. He hasn't been running as much as he has in the past. This new offense really isn't suiting him too well. So, going to be interesting how he does the rest of the season, even though he is historically a slow starter. He usually finishes the season strong. We'll see if that trend continues. Going to my pick, I got Built for the Future, winning this over Staunch Moderates. I just see a couple of his players having a higher floor than the guys on Staunch Moderates. And there's a couple guys that, Trubisky and Watson, you can't trust them week to week. And quarterback, that's really, that can make a difference. And then tight end, only having Kyle Rudolph, that's tough. That guy really has not done too much this year. He's had maybe 2 decent games, but Thielen and Diggs are really eating up all the pass attempts or targets from Kirk Cousins. And then Murray and Cook, they're getting a little out of the backfield, so it's just a little too iffy for me to go with the Moderates, so I'm going with Built for the Future in this one. Next game, we got the emerging Johnny I Want to Score More against Bolieve in Bell, who did lose last week. I got this as my close match of the week. I like both these teams very much, especially with Johnny I Want to Score More most likely not having to play Buck Allen anymore. Putting in Mark Ingram, I would assume, and then whenever Dalvin Cook comes back, maybe goes 3, or he'll stick with the 2. He's got Hopkins, who's, he's always going to have a big game. Ridley, who didn't have a big game last week, but as I mentioned, going up against the Giants, he can go off. CJ Uzma is a little banged up, has a questionable tag. He should play. Rodgers is going to do fine. I mean, he's a warrior. As much as I hate to say it, the guy's just out there killing it. And then it looks like he picked up Graham Gano as his kicker. Gano, he can hit it from 63 yards, in case you guys didn't know. On the other end, I mean, you got Mahomes, who, even when he plays bad, he puts up fantasy numbers. Sony Michel, who's really turned out to be a very good-looking back. Joe Mixon having a great season. Chris Godwin, good season for what he's done and who he is, but still a little up and down. Tyreek Hill, he can put up 40, he can put up 10. Depends, they do have a favorable matchup this week on the outside, throwing the ball, not so much running the ball. Michael Thomas has regressed. Probably move him out of my number 1 wide receiver ranking the rest of the year. Probably put Adam Thielen up there, to be honest with you. But he's still a great player. He's going to get his. Kittle, he's the tight end for backup quarterback. He's going to get his catches. And then you got Bailey, the Jets. You got Le'Veon, who's technically on a bye, but hasn't been on the team yet. No one knows what's going on there. Jordy, Vance on a bye as well. I think this one is going to be a nail-biter. It's going to come down to one of the last games, that last touchdown, that last catch. But I got Bell. Moving forward here and taking the W. Going to kind of derail Johnny I Want to Score More, which, that's going to hurt him going forward with that slow start. But we'll see. You got to play the games. This is just the game on paper. The second to last matchup, we got a brothers matchup of Shoot or Stab versus J-Way Bella. Starting with Shoot or Stab here, you got Cam Newton or Drew Brees. Either one of those guys you plug in, it's going to be fine. Both of them are putting up awesome numbers. Obviously, Brees putting up a little more, but now with Ingram back, it's going to be a little regression for Brees. Not much, not 2017 Brees, but he's not going to be passing as much as he was the first 4 or 5 weeks, especially that 5th week trying to break the record. David Johnson, he's doing fine in fantasy. He's getting touchdowns. You'd like to see him get a couple more targets. Philip Lindsay, I don't know. You don't know what he's going to do. You have seen him on the goal line. You have seen him have big, long runs. But it's just an iffy offense. It's a Thursday night game, which no one really likes to play on Thursday nights or have their players play on Thursday nights. I'm not sure what to expect from him. Same with Robbie Anderson. I know they're down Quincy Enunwa, but Robbie Anderson's just that 9-route guy. He can catch a 60-yard touchdown, and you're happy with that. That gets you your 13 points. He catches another ball or 2, you're good. Or he gets nothing. He is the definition of boom or bust. He's exactly like Deshaun Jackson. Funchess, never been a huge Funchess guy. He is the number 1 wide receiver in Carolina, but he just doesn't do anything for me. He doesn't really move the needle much. Then you got Robert Woods on bye, so you got to think who's going to go in. Maybe, well, there you go. AJ Green's going to go in, no question there. And then maybe instead of Funchess, you put Taylor Gabriel in there, who's had 2 100-yard games of back-to-back weeks. Could make it 3. Maybe. And then J-Way Bella. You got Cousins, who is throwing it 900 times a game. Crowell, who has rushed for over 200 yards and has rushed for 20 yards. Gordon, killing it. Hyde has really been on a downtick lately. Chubb and Duke Johnson have been eating into his carries, so should be interesting there, especially with a couple other running backs on the bench. See what J-Way Bella does with that. Cooks, Thielen, Kelsey, chalk pretty much. Those guys are awesome. But I'm going to tell everybody, you sound the alarm on this one. I got upset alert for J-Way Bella. I'm going with shooter stab. I don't know what it is. I just figure Lindsey or Robbie Anderson is going to have a good game. And I don't know. A.J. Green popping in there for Robert Woods. Tyler Boyd, he could be there. You never know. You never know. So I'm going with upset alert. Oh, and I guess there was a trade I didn't know about. Trey Burton is on shooter stab. That must have been something I overlooked. Pardon me. Haven't had time to do any research. As I mentioned, pretty busy dealing with weddings, birthdays, whatnot. So that's what happened to Trey Burton. And I think that's a very, very good pickup for shooter stab. I would put him in over Jared Cook easily, especially because Jared Cook's the one on the bye, not Robert Woods. But A.J. Green's got to get in that lineup somehow. Somebody's got to get pulled. Maybe that's Robbie Anderson then. Or maybe it's Funchess. Stick Tyler Boyd in there for Robbie Anderson. I got the upset alert on. I got shooter stab winning. And finally, what you've all been waiting for, the game of the week. Walking Dead versus the right hand of destruction. Walking Dead coming in with Marshawn Lynch on a bye, which, as we all know, not the deepest running back core. Even makes me look like I have a deep running back core. So Nick Chubb gets in there. The last time he played him, 3 carries, 100-plus yards, 2 touchdowns. Would hope that doesn't happen again, but as I just mentioned, he is eating into Hyde's workload a little bit, so we'll see where that goes. Still, don't love it. You got Tom Brady, who's starting to play like Tom Brady again. You got Christian McCaffrey, who they kind of went back to what Christian McCaffrey does last week, catching the ball a little more out of the backfield as opposed to running it as much. OBJ could have a huge week going against a terrible Atlanta defense. Golden Tate, he's really had an up and down year. He's had some big weeks and he's had some duds. I think that's the play though. That's what you got to do. Him, Marvin Jones, Galladay. Now you got Kerryon Johnson getting a couple more touches out of the backfield. You just don't know who's going to be the odd man out week to week. Then you got Ebron, who's just playing like an absolute beast, especially if Hilton doesn't play again. Ryan Grant's probably not going to play. Luck really doesn't have that many people to pass to. Ebron could have a huge game. Gronk, he's had an okay season. Now you got a lot of mouths to feed with Edelman coming back. And you got Gordon, who played 81% of the snaps last week after only being there for 2 weeks. So it's going to be interesting to see who they feed week to week. We know Belichick isn't going to tip his hat and he's going to change everything, do it all opposite the way it's supposed to be. So we don't know what's going to happen there. On the other side, yes, believe it or not, I am going to be starting Carson Wentz this week. I know I have started Alex Smith past few weeks, just something in my head said that was the thing to do. Obviously, it was not the thing to do. Kareem Hunt really starting to turn things up. Even when the Chiefs were down a little bit, he still stayed in the game. He's getting a couple more catches a game. I like it. Adrian Peterson, he couldn't move his one arm last week, and he still managed 97 yards. Didn't have a catch literally because he had his sling attached to his body, and so there was no chance he was catching the ball. It's either going to be him or Chris Thompson. I can't put Smallwood in there. I'm telling you that right now. Next, you got Josh Gordon. I think him and Allen Robinson going back and forth with each other. New England, Chicago game. I think those two are primed for some big weeks. My man Emmanuel Sanders, this could be his last week where he can put up some great numbers. If they lose, as I mentioned, there could be a quarterback change, and that would just plummet his stock but he's going up against a so-so Cardinals defense. They do have Patrick Peterson, who, could shadow him, could flip between him and Demaryius Thomas. We don't know. We'll see where that goes. Njoku, love him the rest of the year. Picked up my man Will Lutz again. Then picked up the Vikings defense, who I know they haven't been great this year, but it's not a terrible defense to be picking up off the waiver wire. So I was pretty pumped about that. Obviously, I'm worried about Walking Dead, Nick Chubb, and then whether it's that third wide receiver, second tight end. The two tight end can pay off, but the chances that two tight ends on the same team really have a big week, kind of slight, but it's definitely possible. Obviously, you all know who I'm going with here. I'm going with myself because it's just a logical thing to do. 2-4 record, what else are you going to do? Not go for the other guy because I take gambles. Obviously, Casino, Milwaukee knows that because of the donation I made. I apologize for running through this very quickly. Also a little under the weather, so if my voice is a little scratchy, I apologize for the quality. I don't have any hot takes, but one off the top of my head, New York Football Giants, number 1 overall pick next year. They only win 2 games all season. They look miserable. Defense is starting to unwind because the offense is just leaving them on the field too often. There's too many holes to fix. The offensive line doesn't look much better than last year with the upgrades they made. Eli, even when he has time, he's really not taking chances, and it just looks like a bad season. Something I wish I didn't have to say. I can't believe the Browns are going to have a better record than them this year, but that's just the way it's going to go as far as year long. As far as this week, I'm just going to scroll to a game. All right, scroll down to Bo Levenbell versus Johnny I Want to Score More. And I'm going to go with, I'm going to pick the highest scoring player. That's what I'm going to do. And the highest scoring player is going to be Saquon Barkley, and he is going to put up a 40 burger. That's right, a 40 burger against a terrible Falcons defense. He's going to get 6 catches out of the backfield. He's going to get 2 touchdowns. He's going to run all over the place. The Giants are going to lose in a hopefully shootout where it's about 33-30, something along those lines. This way, he has the potential to get in the end zone. He's the only piece that's holding this team together. Do like to see Landon Collins still, putting out, playing hard. OBJ, you sign him and the guy just cries. Yeah, you want the ball, obviously, but when you're running routes half-assed, nothing's going to happen. Not going to get the ball. Bad plays are going to come. So that's what I got for you guys this week. It's a little short. It'll be easier for you guys to get through this before the Thursday night games. Appreciate you all listening. Let me know if anybody wants to be on next Wednesday. Around 7:30 is usually when we shoot. And until then, go Giants, and have a great week, everybody.